Well, you see, I'm quirkless, so I can't fight like normal. So I'm going to have to get whatever I can when facing 3 thugs with powerful quirks. Izuku said in a serious voice, though on the inside he was grinning. Let your opponent feel like he's in control, and only tell them how strong you want to be. Izuku, though, just because he was quirkless doesn't mean he wasn't dangerous. The thugs, however, thought differently. Their jaws dropped before they started laughing hysterically. The 3 siblings, however, were just shocked. Oh wow, look at the balls on this quirkless nobody. Hans laughed as he wiped a tear away. Oh man, you must seriously be looking for a death wish. Then again, I would too if I was quirkless. Now that pissed Izuku off quiet a bit. I got this green bean, Hans said before he moved into action. The large-hand older teen ran at Izuku with his claws low. Don't think some stupid pole will protect you from my claws, Hans said before jumping into the air and flew at Izuku. I'll cut you so bad nobody will recognize your green ass. Hans was cut off when Izuku jabbed the pole into the thug's face as he flew to him. A satisfying crunch heard from the combination of Izuku's strength and Hans' own momentum. The teen thug crashed to the ground, bleeding from the nose and knocked out. There was a silence in the alley as they stared at the fallen thug with a shocked expression. Yo, you liar! Goggles shouted in an accusing voice as he pointed his finger at him. You said you were quirkless, you just used your quirk. Izuku just raised an eyebrow. Really, what did I do? Everyone was silent as nobody could come up with an answer. Goggles suddenly growled before throwing his right arm back. Even if you have a quirk, I'll still kick your ass. And there's no way I'm losing to some quirkless nobody. Goggles yelled before throwing his hand forward. Just like Izuku thought, the glue from Goggles' hand came at the teen like a whip, and Izuku would admit it was a little fast. But the hero in training was faster. Turning the rusty pole, the glue whip caught it at the end, making Goggles grin in victory. Huh, my glue is practically unbreakable, there's no way you can get it off. Goggles was caught off guard when Izuku pulled the rusty pole back, making the goggle though go flying forward. Izuku ran up to the thug as he fell forward and punched him in the face, twice. The thug's head whipped back as he lost control of his quirk, resulting in the glue falling from his hand. Izuku wasn't done yet and swept the thug's feet, making him fall and smacked his head on the floor, knocking him out cold. Izuku dropped the glue-covered pole and turned to the lone thug who, despite his size, looked nervous. You can either pick up your friend and go, or stay and end up like that, Izuku said as he gave the muscle thug a scary glare. The thug hesitated for a moment before roaring and charging at the teen. Izuku didn't move as Muscle cocked his arm back before throwing an overhand punch. Izuku saw this coming a mile away. The thug might be tough and strong, but he was slow. The teen just moved his head to the side and allowed the punch to swing past him. Then faster than the muscle thug could even see, Izuku shot his hand forward and punched the rock user right in the throat. The muscle thug made a choking sound as he stumbled back while holding his throat, and again Izuku didn't let up. Rushing forward, Izuku grabbed the thug's shoulder before hooking his leg behind his. In one fluid motion, Izuku pulled the thug to the ground and slammed his head into the floor, knocking him out. Izuku let out a small sigh before he turned to the group of siblings, who were staring at him in amazement and shock. I think we should get out of here, Izuku suddenly said, snapping the sibling out of their shock. I know I didn't do anything wrong, but I don't want to explain to the police how a quirkless teen took down 3 thugs using their quirks. The oldest sibling looked hesitant before nodding and picked up her little sister and grabbed her brother's hand. The four quickly made their way out of the alley until they stopped about 5 blocks away. Izuku turned to the siblings and gave them all a concerned look. "Is anyone hurt?" The oldest sibling shook her head. "They just cornered us, they didn't do anything, Kiro," she said while putting her little sister down and gave Izuku a grateful smile. "Thank you for stepping in." Izuku just gave her a smirk. "I don't think I had to," he said, getting a confused look from the girl. "You looked ready to fight as soon as they used their quirks. And judging from your looks and posture, I'm guessing you have a mutation quirk, frog most likely. Since your quirk is already active, you couldn't fight unless it was self-defense, which only happened if they used their quirks first." The girl's eyes widened ever so slightly. "It's a little scary that you know all that," she said, though she didn't sound scared. Izuku blushed a bit as he rubbed the back of his head. "I get that a lot, but when you're quirkless you got to have a few tricks up your sleeve." Suddenly Izuku felt a little tug on his sleeve, making him look down. There he saw the little girl he helped save look up at him. "Are you really quirkless?" she asked in a cute voice. Izuku gave the little girl a smile as he knelt down. "Yup, ever since I was 4 the doctor told me I was quirkless, I even have the extra toe joint in my feet," he said before a big smile crossed his face. "But that's not going to stop me from becoming a hero." "Wait, you're going to become a hero even though you're quirkless?" the little brother said with some shock. "That's cool." Izuku blinked in surprise a bit. "Are really?" he asked while rubbing the back of his head. "Well, thanks. Big sis is going to be a hero too," the little girl said as she pointed to her big sister, who blushed a bit. "Really, what hero school are you aiming for?" Izuku asked. Me too," Izuku said with a grin on his face as he stuck his hand out. "I'm Izuku Midoriya, and I hope to see you there." The oldest of the siblings smiled as she shook his hand. "I'm Suyu Asui, call me Suyu or Su." Suyu then put a hand on her siblings' shoulders. "And these are my siblings, Samadare and Satsuki. Sup. Hello." Izuku gave them a smile as he looked at his watch. "So where are you heading now?" "We just came from the park and are heading back home, Kiro," Suyu said. "You want me to walk you home?" Izuku asked with a small smile. "I know it would make me feel better if I knew you all got home safe." Suyu smiled at that. "Sure," they said before walking. The walk to the sibling home was mostly uneventful. Samadare and Satsuki mostly asked questions about Izuku and what he can do. "Can you really fight with a sword?" Samadare asked, sounding excited. "Yup, I've started training when I was 8. Izuku said as he remembered the memories training with Clint. "Really, you started training at around my age?" Samadare asked before turning to his big sister. "Do you think Mom will let me train with a sword?" "No." Suyu deadpanned before turning to Izuku. "Please don't give my brother any ideas." Izuku rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. "Sorry." The four soon stopped in front of a home not that different from Izuku's home, if only a little different. Suyu turned to Izuku and gave him a smile. "My parents will want to meet you, since you saved us," she said before turning around before Izuku could say anything, making the green-haired teen follow. The door to the house opened and everyone entered. "Mom, Dad, we're back from the park, and we brought someone," A moment later a mid-age woman walked around corner. She was about the same height as Suyu and wore a purple sweater. "Welcome home Suyu, Samadare, Satsuki," she said with a small smile before turning to Izuku. "And hello, who might you be?" Izuku gave a small bow to the woman. "Hello, I'm Izuku Midoriya." "Hello, I'm Suyu's mother, call me Beru," she said with a smile. Satsuki pulled on her mother's sweater and pointed to Izuku. "He saved us from some bad men." "Saved you from what now?" A second later a man walked round the corner. He was taller than Suyu by nearly a foot and he looked more toad-like than frog-like with brown skin and black hair. The man had a slight concerned look on his face before his eyes landed on Izuku. "Anything I should be told?" Suyu's dad asked. Suyu raised her hand and stepped forward. "I'll explain everything." The Asui family plus Izuku found themselves in the living room as Suyu explained what happened and how Izuku saved them. By the end of the story Suyu's dad, Ganma, looked to Izuku. "I can't thank you enough for helping my kids from those thugs," Ganma said with a bow to Izuku, who quickly waved him off. "I couldn't just sit back and do nothing," Izuku said with a small smile. "Actually, you could've," Ganma said in a serious voice. "I know my daughter is strong, but you didn't know that. You could have ran away, or called a hero and who knows how long that could have taken. Instead you acted and saved my children, so let me thank you." Now Izuku had a bigger blush on his face. No one had ever praised him quiet like this before in his life, so he was feeling a little fluster. Samadare suddenly raised his hand and pointed to Izuku. "He didn't just save us, he did it without a quirk because he's quirkless," he said, shocking his parents. "He's like a ninja or a samurai that's going to go to Ua," he said in an exited voice making Izuku laugh a bit. Beru turned to Izuku with a shocked look on her face. "Are you really quirkless, and you plan to enter Ua?" Izuku grinned as he nodded. "Yes ma'am, I've been training to be a hero ever since I was 8. It's been my life goal," he said with a determined look on his eye. Ganma folded his arms and nodded to Izuku. "Well, if you can beat 3 thugs with such little effort, I'm sure you can become a hero," he said. Izuku gave the older man a grateful smile as he bowed to him. "Thank you," Izuku said as he looked at the time. "I got to go, my mom's cooking dinner tonight and it's almost time. I'll walk you out," Suyu said as she got up from her seat and led Izuku to the front door. "Thank you again for helping me and my brother and sister." Izuku gave the girl a smile. "Hey, it's what heroes do," he said as he was about to walk out. "Wait," Suyu said, stopping Izuku before he exited. The frog girl grabbed a piece of paper on a small table and quickly wrote something down. "Here's my number, maybe we can talk about how to get into Ua." Izuku had a shocked expression on his face before he smiled with a slight blush on his face. Thanks, that sound cool," Izuku said as he opened the door. "I'll call you later," he said before walking out. Suyu gave a small smile before she turned around, only to come face to face with her brother and sister. "You don't waste any time, huh?" Samadare said with a cheeky grin, making Suyu smack him lightly on the head with a small blush on her face. "Don't say unnecessary things. Is Big Sis going to make Izuku her boyfriend?" Satsuki asked, making Suyu rub her head. "Please don't say anything unnecessary," Suyu said again, but this time blushing a little harder. "Mom, I'm home." Izuku called as he entered his home. "Welcome back, Izuku." Inko called as she walked around the corner while wiping her hands with her apron. "How was your day?" "The last 5 years have been much kinder to the green-hair woman." With her son happy and his future to be a hero being more solid than ever, this in turn affected Inko for the better. The middle-aged woman was happier for her son. She was eating better and lost almost all the weight she gained in those 4 years of worrying for her son. Izuku gave her mom a smile and shrugged. "Okay, nothing interesting happened." The last thing he wanted to do was tell his mom he got into a fight with some thugs. Even if she believed in him, she still got worried sick easily. "That's good," she said before she started to walk around the corner. "Oh, I just remembered." Inko suddenly stopped and looked at her son. "Someone called about your ad while you were gone, so I wrote down their number by the phone," she said before she started to walk around the corner. "Dinner will be ready in a few minutes." Izuku grinned when he heard someone called about his ad, making the teen rush to the phone. There he grabbed the little paper with the phone number and quickly dialed it into the home phone. It wasn't long before someone answered the phone. "Hello," a feminine voice on the other line said. "Hello, I was told you called earlier about my ad." "Oh, you're the guy that needs help on some inventions for UA, right?" the person asked in a much more peppy voice. "Right. I have some plans and ideas, but I'm not that great when it comes to making inventions. I could really use an expert on this. I'm willing to pay and provide everything you need, if you know what you're doing." "Great, I'll stop by tomorrow after school. What's your address?" Izuku quickly told the person his address and what time to stop by. "Great, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll make lots of babies together." "Wait, what?" Izuku shouted with a shocked look on his face, but his only answer was the dial tone. The next day after school, Izuku went straight home, waiting for the female inventor to stop by his home. Though the green-haired teen was a little confused and nervous when she said they would be making babies. Izuku really hoped that was a euphemism. Suddenly there was a knock at the door, making Izuku get up from the couch. "Coming," Izuku called as he walked to the door. Opening the door, Izuku was greeted with a slightly surprising sight. The person in front of the teen was a girl the same age as him. This girl had long pink hair that reached her shoulder, almost looking like dreads. She had large goggles on her head, golden eyes that looked like a scope, a black tank top that looked one size too tight, and brown cargo pants. On her shoulder was a large duffel bag that rattled with nearly every movement. "Hi," the girl said with a big smile on her face as she adjusted the bag on her shoulder. "Are you the one that put out the ad?" Izuku nodded his head with a small smile and stuck out his hand. "That's me, I'm Izuku Midoriya." The girl grinned as she took Izuku's hand. "Mei Hatsume, young inventor aiming for UA's support course," she said with a prideful look on her face. "So you say you need some help making some inventions?" Izuku nodded and stepped to the side, allowing Mei entering his house. "Yeah, I got a couple ideas in mind but I can't make them." "You have any experience making inventions?" A prideful look crossed Mei's face as Izuku closed the door. "I've been making my babies since I was little, I can make nearly anything," Mei said as she looked around, not noticing Izuku's sigh as he realized, babies meant inventions. "So, do you have anywhere to work?" "I got a workbench in my room, I also got a few boxes of tech and tools you can use." Izuku said as he led Mei to his room. No thanks, I brought my own tools. Mei said as she took a wrench out of her bag, making Izuku shrug. Once the two reached Izuku's room, they quickly entered together. Mei glanced around the room. It was mostly normal with a few All Might merchandise such as posters and action figures, a few pictures on the wall and some training equipment in a corner. Off to the side was a somewhat large workbench with a few blueprints and arrows. Mei walked up to the blueprints and she had to admit they weren't half bad, though they were far from good. So you use a bow as a weapon? Mei asked as she looked at the arrows on the table. Mostly, but I can use other weapons too. Izuku said as he picked a blueprint from the table. So one of things I need help making is a bow that can morph into a staff. That way I can easily switch to close-range combat. Izuku said as he showed her the blueprint. I have the ideas and I know what is needed, but I just can't figure out how exactly I can make this. Mei took the blueprint from the teen's hands and looked it over. Well, you're not bad, but you're far from an inventor. Mei said as she gave him a smile. But I can easily make something like this, she said as an excited look crossed her face. Maybe we can add some other thing, like a missile launcher, or a magnetic attachment to your hand, or… Before Mei could continue her rant, Izuku raised his hand, stopping her. As much as that sounds cool, I want the bow to be as light as you can make it. Oh, and can you have the bow's pull weight be around 250? Mei was caught off guard a bit by the pull weight. Why do you want it to be so hard to pull? She asked before something clicked in her head. Oh, you have a strength enhancement quirk, that's why you have the bow, for long-range combat, smart. Izuku grinned at her as he leaned against the wall. Actually, I'm quirkless, he said, getting a shocked look from Mei. You're quirkless, but you said you were going to UA. Mei said with a confused look on her face. I am, the rules say anyone can enter the exam, even quirkless people. Izuku said as he looked at a picture that showed him in Clint training. I've been training 5 years to become a hero, being quirkless isn't going to hold me back, he said as he turned back to Mei and watched her expression. The pink-haired girl stared at Izuku for a long moment before a grin crossed her face. You have my attention, she said, catching Izuku off guard a bit. So what other invention's idea do you have? Izuku grinned and pulled out another blueprint from his workbench. Well, I was thinking about something called a grapple gauntlet. The whole day was spent with Mei and Izuku going over possible equipment Izuku could use, ranging from trick arrows to special lightweight armor. They talked all day until the sun started to set. I think it's time I went home, Mei said as she looked at the time. Do you want me to walk you back? Izuku offered, but the pink-haired girl quickly waved her hand. Don't worry, I just live about 1 train ride away from here, Mei said as she gave Izuku a smile. I'll come back tomorrow and we can get started on making these babies. Izuku blushed a bit and coughed into his hand. Can we just call them inventions? Why? Mei asked while tilting her head. I put all my heart into every baby I make, and I love each of them. Izuku sighed at that, he could understand what she meant. Anyway, here, Izuku said as he started to pull some money out of his pocket. The money I owe you, I know it isn't much, but I'll try to pay you more tomorrow when I go to the bank. The green-haired teen was cut off when Mei pushed his hand down. Keep the money, she said, surprising him a bit. Like I said, you have my attention, so I won't charge you. Plus, if you do become a hero you can say it was thanks to my babies," Mei said with a confident grin. Izuku looked at the girl in shock before he laughed. "You're real cool, you know that, Mei," he said as he put the money away. "I think I'm going to have fun working with you." Likewise Izuku. Over the next 2 weeks Mei continued to come over to Izuku's house, helping him build equipment, and over time the two became friends. They built a few inventions that Izuku found perfect for him, such as the grapple gauntlet, a gauntlet that fires a retraceable cable that can attach to any hard surface and reach around 75 feet, allowing Izuku easy mobility to high places. They also made a bow that can fold in on itself and turn into a staff whenever Izuku wanted. They also came up with some blueprints for some lightweight armor that would go good with Izuku's fighting style. Along with that they came up with a bunch of different trick arrows that would be very useful in nearly any situation, along with a bunch of smoke bombs for stealth. Izuku also got in contact with Tsuyu a few times and even had dinner with her family. Her little brother and sister were very interested in hearing about all of Izuku's skills that weren't quirk related, and Tsuyu talked about her own skills. Currently the hero in training was walking to school with a big smile on his face. In his bag was his new bow Mei help him make, the crow claw, or CC for short. Along with a few of his trick arrows, both Barton always told Izuku to be ready for anything. The green-haired teen was suddenly knocked out of his thoughts when he heard a loud crash. Turning the corner Izuku was surprised to see giant villain standing on top of a railway while a bunch of heroes kept the people away. Wow, this villain is huge. Izuku couldn't help but grin as he rushed to the front of the crowd to watch the fight. Size Enhancement Transformation Quirk increases the user's size immensely to the point of being nearly 50 feet tall. Best Counter. Aim for the knees and legs, toppling the giant over. Izuku though as he moved through the crowd. As Izuku moved to the front of the crowd he started to hear the people. Apparently the so-called villain was nothing more than a handbag thief who was pushed against the wall by the heroes. Once Izuku made it to the front his eyes widened as he saw who was fighting the villain. Oh, it's Kamui Wood, a young and talented hero. Izuku shouted in excitement. Hey, the old man with a spiked head said next to Izuku. You seem to know a lot about him. You wouldn't happen to be a fan. Izuku however quickly waved him off. No, I just keep track of popular heroes, he said before turning back to the fight. The hero in training then noticed Kamui Wood was about to use his quirk, making Izuku take out his notebook. Lumbar Emission Quirk. Able to produce vast amounts of strong and durable wood from the body, mostly the arms, best used for long-range fighting but can be used to trap opponents. Counter. Fire or acid would be best used against a wood-based quirk. It may also be possible to cut through wood with sword. Izuku wrote down in his notebook. Unknown to himself he was muttering out loud before he turned back to the fight. Kamui Wood pulled his arm back as wood started to grow. The hero was preparing for a big move. Lacquered Chains Prison. The hero yelled as wood started to surround the villain. But just before the wood could trap the villain a giant woman came flying in and kicked the villain in the face, sending him flying. Cannon Canyon. Izuku felt his jaw drop at the scene before he heard a lot of clicking. Looking to his left he saw over a dozen photographers taking pictures at the sudden hero. Looking back Izuku could see why. I just started today, the woman said while bending over in a seductive manner and showed off her ass. I am called Mount Lady. Pleasure to make your ass acquaintance. Izuku quickly brought out his notebook and started to write. Gigantification transformation quirk. Able to grow in size to about 70 feet in height in an instance. Great for close-range combat, also surprisingly agile given her size. Damage done to giant form may shrink as well when changing back to normal height. Yet this quirk seems to cause a lot of collateral damage, casing more damage than the villain. Also it can't be used inside buildings or in tight places. Counter. Constrain the legs and aim for the eyes, toppling her over. Can also aim for the back of the neck to knock out. Izuku muttered while writing everything down in his notebook. Hey, hey. The old man said when he noticed Izuku taking notes. You also take notes. You thinking of becoming a hero? No. It's good. Continue and give it everything you got. The old man said in a positive voice. Izuku knew the old man might say something differently if he learned he was quirkless, but the green hair boy gave the man a smile. I'll do my best, he said before making his way to school. Okay, you are all in 3rd grade now, the homeroom teacher said in a strict voice as he looked to everyone. In other words, it is now or never that you should think of your future. Izuku sat near the middle of the class and barely paid attention to the teacher, and instead wrote in his book. He mostly recognized everyone in his classroom from last year, but they always stayed away since he didn't have a quirk. I will now distribute the career aspiration document, the teacher said before he threw the papers on his desk to the side. But hey, you have, for the most part, the ambition to go the section of heroes, no? He said in a carefree voice, and in an instant everyone started to use their quirks. Izuku glanced around and documented any new quirks he didn't know. Normally it was against the rules for someone to use their quirk off school grounds, as long as it wasn't used to fight. Nearly everyone in the world wanted to be a hero. It allowed everyone to use their abilities and get money fighting villains. Most people just try to be a hero before giving up and going on with their lives, even if they have powerful quirks. To Izuku, being a hero is putting your life on the line to save others and protect people, not just fight bad guys and making money. Well. Does everyone here have a good quirk? The teacher asked while looking the class over. But be aware that the use of it outside the establishment is against the rules. Suddenly a cocky voice was heard through the class. Teach, don't put me in the same bag as the extras. Izuku glanced at his once friend Katsuki Bakugo. Over the years Katsuki continued to bully Izuku by trying to ambush him or calling him deku. But thanks to Izuku's training he easily snuck or ran away from Bakugo. Not that he couldn't fight the blonde asshole, it was just better for the both of them. If Izuku got into a fight with Bakugo it would be bloody, and if they were caught only Bakugo would be in trouble since Izuku doesn't have a quirk. Even after all these years Izuku still believed Katsuki could be a serious hero, but that didn't mean Izuku was going to help him or put up with his shit. All Katsuki needed to do was get rid of that asshole personality that he thinks makes him edgy. The arrogant blonde kicked his feet on his desk with a cocky grin on his face. I really do not intend to make buddy-buddy with those who have weak quirks. You know. That seemed to piss off the entire class. What do you mean by that, Katsuki? Shut up, you secondary characters. Behave as such. Bakugo yelled with a shit-eating grin on his face. Oh yes, indeed, Bakugo. You want to go to Uwa High School, don't you? The teacher said in a calm voice. The class however, exploded. It was no shock that everyone was, well, shocked. Uwa was literally the best hero high school in all of Japan. It was known as the National High School and some of the biggest hero names come from there. You needed a score of 79 just to take the entrance exam, and the entrance exam was also cutthroat in its own right. Izuku also took the exam a month ago and got a 95 on the test. He would have gotten more if not for the fact he was focusing on training. I'm not surprised that secondary characters like you are quacking, Bakugo said as he jumped onto his desk, the teacher not saying anything, again. I aced the exams, me. I am the only one here that will go to UA. He shouted before throwing his head up. I will even surpass All Might. And then, I'll become the highest ranked hero of all. I'll leave my name forever in the annual ranking of the richest people in the world. This was another thing that Izuku hated about Bakugo. The blonde's only concern was becoming rich, famous, and named the strongest in the world. Helping others and working with other people was the last thing on his mind. Suddenly the teacher had a thoughtful look on his face as he looked through his papers. Now that I think about it, Midoriya also wishes to enter UA. He said casually, making Bakugo freeze. Izuku face-palmed as he sighed, feeling the whole class was against him. And it felt even more true when the entire class looked at him and laughed. Seriously. Midoriya. It's impossible for someone like you. Someone who only knows how to study can't join the hero section. Izuku kept a calm look on his face as he took a deep breath. The green-haired teen was used to these comments by now since he grew up with most of these people. And it was thanks to Clint and Lila's training that Izuku was able to control his emotions. Out of the corner of Izuku's eye he saw Bakugo jump from his desk with his arm cocked back, flying right towards him. Acting fast, the green-haired teen pushed the floor with a strong kick, pushing his chair back as Bakugo blasted his desk. Deku. The blonde shouted with a pissed-off look on his face. Izuku glared at Bakugo as he stood up from his chair. What? Bakugo had an angry grin on his face as he glared at Izuku. You don't even have a weak quirk. You have nothing, he said as his hands sparked. So why are you trying to enter the same area as me, huh? Izuku's expression didn't change as he grabbed his chair. Because I want to be a hero, I want to help people, he said simply. That still seemed to piss Bakugo off quite a bit. What do you mean by that? A quirkless nobody can't become a hero. Say your prayers, Bakugo said as his right hand made a fist. What are you capable of anyway? The blonde threw his fist aiming for Izuku's head, but just as it was about to connect, Izuku caught Bakugo's wrist, stopping the punch in an instant. There was a stunned silence as Bakugo just gaped at Izuku. The green-haired teen glanced around the blonde and looked to his teacher, who looked just as stunned. Can we start class, or do you want this fight to continue? Izuku said with a sarcastic voice, snapping the teacher out of his stare. Because I want the principal to know why a fight that destroyed a classroom was allowed to happen. The teacher cleared his throat and slammed his hand on his desk. Everyone back to their seats, including you, Bakugo. The blonde growled like a feral dog before snatching his wrist back. Izuku said nothing as he grabbed his chair and moved to his desk, which was still intact. Good thing they're quirk resistant, Izuku muttered as class started and Bakugo kept glaring at the green-haired teen. The rest of the day was normal, and luckily there was no test. At the end of the day everyone started to gather their things and leave, including Izuku. As the green-haired teen packed his bag he was about to grab his notebook before it was snatched from his desk. Izuku glared when he saw Bakugo look at his notebook. I still have things to settle with you, Deku. Bakugo said while sticking out his lower lip like a thug. What is that, Katsuki? One of Bakugo's groupies asked. For the future, Quirk Analysis Volume 13. Bakugo read with a bored look on his face. Izuku saw the blonde was about to put his book between his hands and he instantly knew what was going to happen. Faster the Bakugo could react, Izuku snatched the book from his hands as an explosion went off. The blonde growled at Izuku as he put his book into his shirt. Is there a reason you're trying to burn my stuff? Bakugo glared at Izuku as he walked up to the green-haired teen. Some say that it is possible at the start of the year to determine the person who will be the first-ranked hero. Bakugo then stabbed his finger into Izuku's chest, though the teen didn't budge. I'll be the first. But also the only one of this shabby municipal school. And more, since I am a perfectionist, I want those who claim the title of one who seeks to continue his studies at UA, have a certain dignity. Close-minded and an egomaniac as always. Izuku thought while rolling his eyes. Also this feel rehearsed, like he practiced in front of the mirror for this. Bakugo slapped his hand on Izuku's shoulder, activating his quirk lightly. For a moment, forget the idea of passing the entering contest of UA, you dirty nerd. Bakugo said with a smile that seemed to fucking genuine. Izuku didn't flinch from the pain and instead just raised an eyebrow at the blonde. You done with your speech you clearly practice, or do you have something else to say? Izuku asked in a calm voice. The blonde growled before he turned around and started to walk away. You still can't see thing in the face. Just as Bakugo was about to walk out of the door with his crew, he stopped as he glanced back. I forgot, there is a method that can be really effective if you want to be a hero so much. He said with a small smile. Make the leap of faith from the roof. Believing with all your might that you will have a quirk in the other world. A look of pure horror crossed Izuku's face as he stared at Bakugo. What the fuck? Izuku said as he took a step back in shock. What Bakugo just said? That was practically pure evil. You got something to say? Bakugo asked with a dark look on his face as his quirk flared. Yes, I got something to fucking say, you psychopath. Izuku roared so loud everyone actually took a step back in shock. What the fuck is wrong with you? What kind of perdón tells someone to kill themselves? Bakugo regained his footing and glared at Izuku. Because. No. Izuku stomped right up to Bakugo and looked the blonde teen right in the eye with pissed-off glare. There is no fucking reason on earth you can come up with that makes it okay for you to tell someone to kill themselves. He yelled in the blonde's face. Unknown to Izuku, he was currently releasing a large amount of killer intent. The groupies were shaking as sweat dripped down their face. Bakugo's body actually stiffened and he got ready to blast Izuku if he did anything. The green-haired teen leaned right into Bakugo's face until they were only an inch apart. If I find out you actually drove someone to suicide, I swear to God, I will beat you so bad you won't be taking the UA entrance exam in 10 months. Izuku said in a low voice before he pushed past Bakugo, who had a shocked look on his face. Izuku didn't look back as Bakugo called out, Deku, over and over again in an angry rant. Of all the stupid, arrogant, moronic, Izuku shouted as he walked home. The young hero in training was pissed off. What Bakugo had said was by far the worst thing he had ever done, and he did it with a fucking smile on his face. He wants to be a hero, yet he acts like a villain because he thinks he can do whatever he wants. Izuku muttered as he rubbed his face his frustration. And everyone praises him for it, like he's the second coming of Christ. This was the final straw. If Bakugo did anything remotely bad like that, he was better off in a hospital bed for 10 months instead of UA. Endeavor, one of Izuku's least favorite heroes, like -1, was an arrogant asshole that was a lot like Bakugo. The flame user was more interested in fighting villains than actually helping people, which was why he was the highest for collateral damage and actually put civilians in danger with his quirk. Yet despite everything he was the 2-ranked hero in Japan. Izuku took a deep breath to calm himself down as he went down a shortcut. I need something to take my mind off this. Izuku muttered as he walked down the dim tunnel. Maybe some bow training will clear my heya. The hairs on the back of Izuku's neck stood on end. There was a change in the air as he felt an ominous presence. Gloop. Izuku jumped forward and rolled across the ground before whatever was behind him would grab him. The teen was shocked to see a large figure made out of slime with 2 large eyes floating in it float out of the manhole. Invisibility cloak. Size M. The slime being said as he gazed at Izuku, making him shiver. Izuku's mind started to race as he pulled out his bow from his bag, which extended in an instant. Slime Body Mutation Quirk. The user's body is almost completely fluid with the exception of the brain, eyes, and teeth, but they appear to be extremely flexible. Normal physical attacks will prove to be ineffective unless for a large explosion of force. Counter. Ice and electricity. Izuku thought as he pulled out one of his trick arrows. Don't worry kid, I'm just going to take control of your body for a little time. The slime man said as he reformed his body. It'll hurt you for 45 seconds, then the pain will disappear. He said in a creepy tone. Slime body also seems to allow the user to push themselves in someone else's body via mouth, hopefully, and take control of them like a puppet. Izuku pulled the arrow back and aimed it right at the villain. Don't move, I'm warning you. Izuku said in a calm voice as he pulled his bow back. The villain let out a chuckle as he stared at the arrow with a dark blue tip. Do you really think an arrow can affect me? I'm practically invincible in my liquid form. Izuku on the other hand just grinned. Hey dumbass, liquid conducts electricity. He said before letting the arrow loose. As soon as the arrow hit the slime villain screamed in as his slime body was shocked. You bastard. The villain screamed in pain as he struggled to move. Izuku didn't waste any time pulling out another arrow, this one a baby blue at the tip. Hey, that's not nice. I'll have you know my mom loves me very much. He said as he pulled the second arrow back. But before Izuku could fire, the manhole was suddenly sent flying up into the air. Don't worry kid. A strong voice said, making both Izuku and the slime villain freeze, but for different reasons. I'm here. There that climbed out of the manhole was All Might himself, the #1 ranked hero. All Might raised a brow as he saw the slime villain getting shocked something in his chest, only to stop a second later. It's finally over. Texas Smash. All Might yelled as he punched the villain in the back. Izuku's jaw dropped as the villain was torn to pieces. I was right, only an extremely strong physical attack can affect the villain. All Might's punch was strong enough to create a wind pressure that tore the slime apart. Though he's still not harmed. He thought with stars in his eyes as All Might took out a soda bottle and quickly captured the slime villain with it. Are you okay kid? All Might asked in a concerned tone and Izuku could only nod dumbly. Thank God. All Might sighed in relief. I'm really sorry. You got involved in my removal of the villain. I don't usually make beginner mistakes like this. All Might then reached into his bag and pulled out a soda bottle with the villain inside of it. Anyway, it's thanks to you that I have succeeded, so thank you. The hero said as he made his way out of the tunnel. Izuku's mind was currently elsewhere. All Might. The real one. All Might in the flesh and bone. It is designed in a completely different way. Izuku thought as his mind struggled to reboot. Then it hit him. My autograph book. Izuku nearly yelled as he put his bow away and took out his special book he used to get hero. It was purple with a hawk symbol on it, a gift from Clint on his 13th birthday. Please sign my book. He shouted while opening to a blank page. Before Izuku could even blink, All Might pulled out a pen and wrote his hero name in an instant. Well, I have to take him to post. All Might said as he started to walk away out of the tunnel. Check out my exploits on LCD TV, kid. As Izuku walked away, a thought struck his, making him hold out his hand. Wait, I was hoping I could. Izuku struggled with his words, as he stuck his hand out. You know, professionals must constantly fight against time and evil. All Might said as he crouched down low, ready for a long jump. Izuku's mind started to race. I have to ask him one question, just one question. Izuku thought as he glanced at the hero's belt, and a crazy thought entered his head. Lila's going to kill me if she finds out about this. Izuku before he ran forward. Just before All Might jumped, Izuku grabbed the hero's belt. In an instant the teen was 100 feet in the air, one thought going through his mind. How can something so stupid be so cool at the same time? Izuku thought as he gripped tighten around the leather belt like his life depended on it. Huh. All Might said as he noticed an extra passenger. No. He shouted in shock and worry. Let me go. Are you crazy or what? You want me to let go of you when we're 100 feet in the air? Izuku shouted back, making the hero pause. Izuku was pretty sure his grapple gauntlet could save him if he fell, but he didn't want to test it out. Okay, I understand. All Might said with a slight sweat drop at Izuku's determination. Close your eyes and mouth now. Suddenly All Might coughed into his hand, making his eyes widen. Shit. It took a couple of seconds but the two landed on top of an apartment building. Izuku hit the ground and felt his legs shake as he struggled to stand. Okay, that's a first, he said in a slightly shaky voice. All Might was muttering to himself as he rubbed his face. Seriously. I really have no time to lose, so I'll leave you here. All Might said as stepped forward. That snapped Izuku out of his daze. Wait. No. I can't wait. All Might said in an argent tone.